Welcome back to the show, the In the Clinic podcast with Rob. Yes, it's been a couple of weeks and I'm super pumped to get rolling today. A lot of hot topics, a lot of updates that are coming your way today. I'm super pumped because, we're in the thick of it for spring sports. We're in the thick of it with a lot of action that we're doing lately with our teams. And when I say teams, yep. I'm not just coaching the varsity softball team, but I just picked up coaching my son's Little League team. Now, if anybody knows me, I like coaching. It's about the kids. It's about improvement. It's about trying to instill some discipline and understanding and big picture about what the game is about in life. So for me, I really enjoy the coaching side of it, and to be able to make an impact in an individual's life is huge. It's huge. I love that. So for me, I'm always looking for that opportunity, but it is not without energy. It is definitely not without energy. And at times, from running the clinic to coaching varsity softball to adding extras into your life, it can get hard. It can get overwhelming. And that's where I always have to have perspective, and perspective from my wife, perspective from my family, perspective from my coworkers, and then also just kind of appreciating the good that happens. But, from coaching, I get a little bit of nostalgia because my dad was a coach, and he was an individual that was constantly coaching our baseball teams, our basketball teams. He was our JV football coach. He was a weightlifting coach. So I'd say it's genetic. It's in my blood. But it's just something that I learned primarily from him because he constantly gave back. He gave back to individuals. And what I found is that people over the years would consistently stop us in the mall, or we were eating at Jack in the Box or somewhere, and they would come up and say, "Hey, Coach Sumner, I just want to tell you I appreciate everything that you did for me. You were one of my favorite coaches when I was coming through." And that always touched on me, that impact that you had on individuals' lives as a coach. So it was really powerful. So for me, it makes me think about primarily that in this world, what we're trying to do is essentially build our own realm. Now, hear me out on this. And the reason I say hear me out is because when you start thinking realm, you're thinking Minecraft. Because that's what my son always is thinking. He's building his Minecraft realms. And what I mean by you're building your own realm is that you decide what your life entails. And in a way, we are building our own realm in the sense of our real time and our real life. And, I constantly am thinking of the movie The Matrix, where we are living in a simulated world that artificial intelligence is just presenting to us what we want to see and hear and feel, and we're really actually our actual bodies living in a pod up in space, and they just use us for energy. But that's a side note. What I'm really talking about is in your life, you get to decide what it looks like. You get to decide who your friends are. You get to decide where you want to work. You get to decide the interaction that you have with your parents. You get to decide how you want to raise your kids, if you want to have kids, or who you want to marry and who you want to be with. And in a way, we are constantly building our own realm. That's what we're doing. We're constantly building our own realm. We decide what brick goes where. We decide what tree goes where, just like in Minecraft. We decide who our friends are. We decide the path that we take. And too many times I meet especially younger individuals that don't really realize that the world's their oyster. They get to decide what they want to do. They get to decide the interactions that they have. And it's powerful. When you start looking at it from that angle, it gets really powerful. And, for me in my life, I've tried to create my own realm. From the clinic that we have, to the teams that I coach, to the way that my wife and I raise our kids. And that doesn't mean that I control my kids. That doesn't mean that I just dictate to them and get the belt out. It's more about deciding what you want in your life and how you're going to get there. Purposefully planning. Just this morning, I was talking about retirement to my kids. I was telling them my long-term vision on our own little ranch, and I'm retired, and I'm with their kids, my grandkids, and we spend the day, building stuff and fixing fence and tending to animals, and just learning and growing. And I explained to my kids that, as a dad, it's a challenge, because if you provide everything that you can in their lives and give them all the money that they can ever dream of, what they don't get is me. But if they get all the time in the world with me, then they don't get money. It's not productive. So it's a constant push-pull of trying to be the best father that I can, and also give them as much time that I can. And it's been a delicate balance over the years of running a business and coaching and different endeavors. But as I explained to them, that I'm always looking ahead. I welcome the future. I welcome what's next. And I see in the future that for them, I hope that they bring their kids home. They bring them back here and they allow me to assist in their development, and I can give them time. And that's sometimes what we overlook, that grandparents are able to provide grandkids, is time. A lot of time, a lot of instruction, a lot of patience building. And just building that rapport with them to the point where they grow into confident individuals. Because we all know that kids need time. They need it. And for me, I've always tried to provide some time for those kids on the field or on the court. And if I can be an accessory person to them that builds time into their lives to teach them the values that they need to help them have a fulfilled life, then my job's done. So that gives me joy overall. So overall, this dovetails into some of the coaching experiences that I've had recently with our team, our varsity team. Now, we have a pretty stacked team, quality girls, work hard, understand the game. But we've had our ups and downs. We've had a lot of younger girls that have currently jumped into a varsity level, and it's a difference. It's a definite difference. And from that, I talked to them about a couple things. And the first thing I talked about was how we want the glory, but what about all the pressure of it all? Yeah, at times we want to be the starter. We want to be on the field at all the time. We want to be there in the coach's eye that you're the player for us. And especially when we're around our peers, we start comparing things. Oh, who's playing in front of me? Or why am I not playing more innings? Or why did coach make this decision? And sometimes we want that glory, but we don't always want the pressure of it all. We don't always want what comes from that. We don't want all that smoke, as the kids say. So, what I'm essentially getting to is that our value as a player and as a person really has nothing to do with the coach. The coach themselves does not determine the value of an individual. The coach doesn't. The player does. The player determines their value. And let me give you a couple examples. You look at Michael Jordan, and this has been overly written about and talked about for years, and they talk about how Michael Jordan never made the freshman team. He was cut, which isn't actually true. Jordan was on the freshman team. He was 5'10" or so, and made at the end of the year, they did not pull him up to be on the varsity team, as many teams do. Many teams will bring some of their underclassmen and bring them up to give them the experience of state and district tournaments, etc. And he wasn't pulled up. Travesty! Outrage! Looking back on it, you might think so. But truly, he was 5'10", and the guy they pulled up was like 6'7" as a freshman. He was tall, and he needed height. But Michael Jordan was not happy with that. He was not pleased with that decision. It really, really infuriated him. Because in his mind, his value was not predicated based on what the coach thought of him. His mind told him, I'm an A. I'm it. I'm the guy. And that never changed for him. His value was not dictated by what the coach thought of him. He knew his value constantly. He knew where he belonged. It's just a matter of everybody else seeing it. Tom Brady, another great example. Tom Brady did not always start at Michigan. Sat 2 years behind Brian Griese. Had a battle for his starting job. Had a battle for it. And he goes to the pros. He runs like a 5-flat 40. We've all seen those pictures of him with his shirt off at the combine. Gangly. And he gets drafted 199. 199th pick, which is really low. Close to the end. Every team passed on him like 6 times. Including the Patriots. But the thing is, Tom and Michael, they never just stopped. They never quit and said, oh, well, this coach doesn't like me. The coach is stupid. I'm just quitting because they don't see my talent. No. They doubled down. They worked harder. And they used that as fuel. Fuel. And never relent. Every practice, every game, never relent. Everybody will see my greatness at all times. I can leave no doubt. Michael Jordan invited and brought the guy that was picked in front of him as a freshman to go up to the varsity team. He brought him to his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I mean, how petty is that you're holding on 20 plus years later from something that happened when you were 15 years old? Tom Brady just announced that he's not retiring. He's coming back for his 23rd season or something like that. Why? Because he wants there to be no doubt who the greatest of all time is. He enjoys the process. And he's unrelenting. But what makes them transcendent is their mindset. They have a growth mindset, not a fixed. They have a growth mindset, which tells everyone that I can accept failure. I can accept the fact that you do not agree with who I see I am. And I'm fine with that because I'm going to prove it to you. They're okay with disappointment. And they're willing to work through it. But a fixed mindset is an individual that doesn't see it that way. It's either there's so much talent out there and either I have it or I don't. And if somebody else is in front of me, then I can't be it. I'm not special. And that is a death nail. It's people that truly make the most out of their realm are individuals with a growth mindset that can accept failure and work through it. And it's funny because what we're really getting down to is I hear all the time, how do I grow more self-confidence? How do I get more self-confidence? And the reality is that confidence is not really what we're talking about. We're talking about self-belief. Because kids are not born with confidence. They don't come out of the womb and they're confident. They have self-belief. When your baby is home and sitting in the crib and starts screaming in the middle of the night, it has self-belief. that if I keep screaming, you're going to come in here and feed me. When your toddler lays down in the middle of the grocery store and starts kicking and throwing a tantrum because it's not getting what it wants, it has self-belief that its tantrum will lead to the outcome it wants, not confidence. So when we truly look at confidence, we're talking about self-belief. We're talking about having that ingrained sense of knowing who you are, regardless of what other people think of you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Their opinion does not shake the value that you see in yourself. And that's critical. It's absolutely critical. Because when you're looking at confidence, confidence really comes from consistency. When you have a self-belief in yourself and you attack something consistently, it turns into confidence and passion. Nobody finds a passion something that they suck at. Passion comes from that curiosity to give it a try, that self-belief that you can make it happen over time, that consistency to keep trying. Eventually it leads to confidence, because confidence is really built like a muscle. And the more self-belief that you can put into yourself and keep trying and working, eventually what happens is you persevere at times. And when you persevere, it's like a muscle. That confidence builds. See, my self-belief pushed through. I never stopped. I persevered. And then it gets easier to do it again on something else, on something more new. Again and again and again. So overall, how do you grow self-confidence? Well, you have to have a level of self-belief. You got to believe in yourself that you'll work through failure, and that failure is part of the process, that you have a growth mindset, and that through consistency and perseverance that you will overcome it. You haven't failed, you just haven't found the right way to succeed yet. So, overall, switching gears, going down today to watch my nephew Austin, who's playing baseball today. He's playing for a college, and he's going to be playing in Spokane. So I'm excited to watch him play. And what's interesting about it is I've watched Austin over the years play multiple sports. From basketball, I coached him in basketball, to football, to baseball. And when we're talking about an individual that has had setbacks, as a junior in high school playing football, he went to tackle an individual, and through tackling him, he completely and dramatically dislocated his right shoulder, his throwing shoulder. This created a chasm of events that led to him needing a pretty significant surgery that tightened up the capsule to the front part of the shoulder. It was completely ruptured, completely dislocated, and it damaged all the tissues. So you have to tighten it up. You have to sew it back together. And in the process of doing so, it makes it very, very hard to throw a baseball. Very hard. So he went from being a catcher, starting catcher, to a first baseman with very limited ability to throw, even a designated hitter for most of the time. And through this process, he's had a long road of failure to try and get to where he's at, which now he's a starting first baseman for his college baseball team. And he's enjoying it. He's enjoying the process now. And it hasn't always been glory. It hasn't always been roses for him. And it's been a lot of heartache to try and get there. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, because I hear at times from coaching where I'll be disappointed. I'll be frustrated. I'll be upset. And I hear from people in a flippant way, well, you just got to remember it's just a game. And by golly, that's true. In the big picture of things, it is just a game. it is just for fun. It is just a sport. But the reason that it makes it impactful and the reason that it matters is because it's not just about being a game, it's about a goal. And when you set a goal for yourself and for your team and for the people around you, it's not about the game anymore, it's about the goal. It's about trying to achieve something that's unknown. And then you put your heart and soul into it. You spend nights thinking about it. You prepare your energy all in on it. And you go and practice for the unknown. And you try and put individuals in a position that gives them the best chance to succeed because they have their own goals as well. And when you don't fulfill that goal, it hurts. Painful. Why do athletes cry after they lose a championship? It's just a game. They're being paid millions of dollars. Why are they crying? And truly, it's not about the game. It's truly about the goal. You have a goal to win a championship, and you come so close to achieving your goal, and you fail. Oh, it stings. And I'll never forget the last time that I played a college baseball game. It was in Utah, Dixie College, and it was after our regional playoff game that we lost. And I knew that was going to be the last game that I've ever played. And we were on one of those Greyhounds. I went into the back bathroom that they had, a little bathroom in there. I remember just crying uncontrollably, sobbing. Because I had given everything I could to the game and my goal. My goal was to be the best baseball player I could. And I still felt that even through my efforts, I left a little on the table. And it hurts and it stings. And so again, when people say it's just a game, true, it is. It's just work. It's just life. It's just fill in the blank. It's true. But it's actually bigger than that because it's about your personal commitment to yourself. Do you let yourself down? Do you let yourself down easy? Do you make commitments to yourself and throw them away? Because athletes typically don't do that. Athletes sacrifice. They look at big picture, delayed gratification. They put their time and energy into something in hope of achieving a goal. And when it doesn't happen, it hurts. It's painful. So, to all you athletes out there that are grinding away, constantly in the process of achieving your goal, good for you. Keep working. And in the end, if you end up crying, good for you as well. When I see an athlete cry, it gives me joy. Because I know that they care so much about achieving their goal that it brought them to tears. Good. So when we return, I got a quick story about Craig Ehlo, of all people. Craig Ehlo, and we're gonna dovetail right into shoulder injuries. And it's important because I talked about my nephew there with his shoulder injury and some of the stuff that he went through. But when we return, we're going to fire away and get right into shoulder injuries when we get back. Welcome back to the show. And, before the break, we were talking about my nephew Austin and how we're going down to see him play today. And it reminded me of his shoulder injury. And gosh, we see a ton of people in the clinic with shoulder injuries, a lot of shoulder injuries. And, the thing about shoulder injuries is they typically involve a lot of dysfunction throughout your day, but you just don't stop to recognize it. It's hard to reach up overhead. You're not lifting things away from your body. Throwing a baseball gets harder. All those things become more annoying than anything. It doesn't always make it so that you can't do them. They're just annoying. So I can relate to this because, lately I've been throwing batting practice to the girls. And now I'm starting with little guy baseball. So I'm throwing a little bit more, and I started noticing a little bit of pain to the front part of my shoulder. And as I was reaching up to the ceiling or back behind, I have a little bit of tightness that's through the front part of the shoulder. But, I have found that with throwing sports, particularly overhand, we see a lot of shoulder injuries. But we also see them in the spring, just like right now with gardening, more pulling, lifting, and the different dormancy of winter, I call it, from not doing as much. But where I also experience it a ton, and where I see a lot of this, is with driving. I see the front part of the shoulder, pain with driving, but also numbness and tingling to the hands. So picture yourself when you're driving, like we're going to Spokane today, and your hands at the 10 and the 2 on the steering wheel. And you don't have any symptoms at first. For the first 20 minutes, you're getting down to Chihuahua, you don't have any symptoms, but after about 20, 30 minutes, you start feeling this dull ache in the front part of the shoulder. You take your hand off the wheel, and you start realizing you've got this knot that's right up on the top part of your neck. And every time you keep putting your hands back up onto the wheel, your fingers start going numb. As you're driving further, it gets more and more tingly. You keep taking your hand off the wheel and kind of shaking it out, trying to get your feeling back into it, snapping your fingers. And eventually, you realize, hey, this is hurting every time I drive. So what does that 10 to 2 position have to do with it? Why are you experiencing that type of pain? And here's 2 examples of over the years why I've seen this been a problem for people. Okay? The shoulder mechanics work by creating this very stable base for the shoulder itself. You have the shoulder blade, that's the foundation for the shoulder. It's kind of like the foundation for a stable house. And people rarely see this foundation. They don't pay much attention to it. But once the house starts leaning or cracking, then they start looking at the foundation. And the shoulder blade and the shoulder blade muscles really are rarely talked about, but they're everly important, especially when we start getting shoulder pain. So we've all heard about the rotator cuff muscles, but have you heard about the serratus anterior? Usually not. That's one of your one of your scapular muscle. So that shoulder blade muscle, those muscles, they really work together. They work collectively to help tip your shoulder in different positions and create a firm, stable base so then your rotator cuff can work. But when you put your arms out in front of you at a 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, what do you get? You're getting constant use of those scapular muscles to hold your arms up. And you think you're resting them on the steering wheel, but you're not. They're still firing away. They're still holding there. And what happens over time, those shoulder blade muscles, they start fatiguing. And it makes it harder to hold that position. You start getting trigger points or knots into those muscles. And those knots can create restriction to the point where it starts pinching on different nerves that run down your arms. Then you start getting tingling in your hand. Okay? So let's get into ways that you can prevent this. If you're getting numbness or tingling into your hands, here are a couple tips that you can do that will help you right away start reducing the amount of tingling you're getting in your hands. Okay? So 3 ways to eliminate that shoulder tingling, that shoulder pain, and numbness and tingling to the hands with driving. Number 1, reduce your 10-2 position. That standard 10-2 with driving creates a significant demand on the shoulder blade muscles. And with prolonged driving, this can create a problem. Simple solution is go from that 10-2 position and just slide your hands down maybe to a 4-8. The 4-8 will give you time to rest. Your arms will rest on your lap. And usually with highway driving, prolonged driving, that's fine. It's reasonable. Number 2 thing you could do, adjust your seat position. A lot of times when patients describe these symptoms while driving, they'll observe that their seat position is improper. The seat position too far away from the steering wheel will require the arms to stay extended. But also a seat that's reclined too far back will also do the same thing. So being the proper distance from the steering wheel that allows your arms to have a little bit of rest takes pressure off those scapular muscles. And the third thing that you can do is improve your scapular strength. Improving the rhomboids, the lower trapezius, the serratus anterior, they all work as a force couple. And the stronger and fatigue resistant they are, the better off you're going to be. Okay? So the critical part is position, how long you're holding your arms in one spot, and then strengthening those muscles. And if you're wondering how to strengthen your rhomboids, how to strengthen your trapezius, strengthen your serratus anterior, I put my email in the link here. I got some great videos that I can always send to you that give you some exercises that you can start firing away at. Or you can go to our YouTube channel. Just look up Sumner Specialized Physical Therapy, and I have a couple on there as well. But all in all, that kind of dovetails out of shoulders and into my Craig Ehlo story. Now, this this has nothing to do with shoulders, but I love a good story. And I was thinking about it because I was with my son a couple weeks ago, and we went down to Spokane, and we went down to the trampoline park down there. Him and I had a bro day and had a good time. And while we were down there, we walked through the JCPenney's and we went up the escalators. And as I went up the escalators, I had extreme nostalgia. It all was coming back to me. And we got up to the top, and I'm looking at this, and it just hit me. You know what it's like when you get that nostalgia. And I was maybe 12 years old, and I had my 2 younger brothers with me and my dad, and we were going to do school clothes shopping in the Northtown Mall. And my dad had told us that Craig Ehlo, who was playing for the Supersonics at the time, he saw in the newspaper that he's going to be at the Northtown Mall at the JCPenney's today. Now, Craig Ehlo is no Michael Jordan, as we all know, but he still was a professional basketball player, and we thought, hey, if we walk by and see him, it might be neat. So we saw the JCPenney's when we were going there, and we were walking by, and we get out right to the front of the JCPenney's, and we're thinking, hey, let's go see Craig Ehlo. Let's just go walk by and see him. And as we walk in, there is a line already out the JCPenney. Around the left side of the clothes rack, down the long aisle there, all the way around to the back part of the store. And I'm going, holy smokes, this many people want to see Craig Ehlo. Wow, I didn't know he's such a superstar. So my dad said, well, we're not waiting in line to see Craig Ehlo. Let's just walk up to the front and see if we could just take a look at him. So we slowly start walking up, and we get up to the front, and we start getting up there, and we're getting about ready to turn the corner and see Craig Ehlo. And as we're walking up, we realize that all of the people in line are women. Wow, Craig Ehlo's a heartthrob. He's the man. We're like, this is really weird. Not a single guy wants to meet Craig Ehlo. What's up with that? And as we got up to the front, we turned the corner and we looked, and we took a double take and realized that's not Craig Ehlo. That was a heartthrob from the Young and the Restless. The soap opera. And it all came to us right at once. Why there were only women in line for Craig Ehlo, because it wasn't for Craig Ehlo. And oh man, that was one of our best stories. Best because my dad had built this up to us so much. We had watched basketball a lot, Larry Bird back in the day, and those, and he had built this up, and we all looked at him and looked at my dad, and he's like, "Oh, I must have got the day wrong." But it was good. So all in all, I got one last thing to leave with you before we sign off for today. And it really comes down to a couple factors. It really comes down to people that ask me, or especially young individuals, will say, how do I add more value in my life? And what they're really saying is, how do I add more meaning? How do I get more meaning in my life? That's a $1 million question. I mean, for the individuals that ask that, that's powerful. How do I add more meaning in my life? And the best way I can answer this is through the example that I've seen from my dad. He's an individual that chooses to give to me and my family, our softball team, my office, the people in my office, without looking for anything in return. He gives because he truly wants to make an impact in other people's lives. But he does it without looking for anything in return. And I've said it before that kindness is undefeated. Kindness truly is undefeated. And when you're looking at kindness, when you're looking for nothing in return, then you're on the mark. But if you're only kind because you're looking to hold on to it so you can use it later, that's manipulation. It truly is. So the key that my dad's demonstrating is that the best way to make meaning out of your life, or more meaning, is to give to others. That's the best way. Absolute best way. Because by giving to others, it comes back to you tenfold. And I've watched this into his life, and I've emulated my own life through the coaching that I do, through the interactions with our staff, with trying to give to other people without looking for anything in return. And truly, you get a lot in return because of it. Opportunity opens for you. People appreciate what you're doing. Friendships. So overall, the best way that you can improve your own life is to help others. Best way that you can improve your own mental health is to look for ways to help others. So all in all today, team, that dovetails into what we talked about from the start. Build your own realm. Your world is your Minecraft. You can build it how you want to. You dictate who's in your life and how you want to spend your time. My advice, to add more meaning into your life, spend your time helping others. That's the best thing that you can do, the number one thing. Keep a growth mindset overall. Know your value on who you are as a person. Don't look for other people to create that value. Also touched on today about shoulder injuries. Best way to reduce it with numbness and tingling in the hand. Got some videos for you if you'd like those as well. Just shoot me an email. But overall, team, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. I appreciate the feedback that I get, the questions that I get. I always welcome them, because this is my way to bring kindness to your life and to give without asking for anything in return. So I hope to just continue to add value to this podcast by answering the questions that you have, and to create more meaning in my own life by helping you. All right, team. Thanks for listening today. We'll catch you next time on the In the Clinic podcast with Rob.